Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Not shouting. Duanling Tian's voice was cold and indifferent, as if it came from the depths of hell. A terrifying killing intent swept out of his body and enveloped that female student. Instantly, the female student felt as if she was within a horrifying battlefield, and dread arose from the bottom of her heart before she hurriedly said, "I'll shout. I'll shout? You dare." Tong Li's face went gloomy, as she'd never expected this bootlicker to actually dare shout it, and she raised her hand before swinging a slap at the female student. Whoosh! Just at this moment, the black whip within Duanling Tian's hand swung out and directly descended onto Tong Li's arm. Slap! Accompanied by Tong Li's shrill cry, she retracted her arm, which now had a pitch-black bruise on it. You! Tong Li stared angrily at Duanling Tian, but even though she had a belly full of harsh words to say in her heart, she just didn't dare say it. With the two previous lessons, she became clear of Duanling Tian's temper and knew that if she were to dare say anything harsh, this Duanling Tian would surely raise his hand at her. For the sake of avoiding the pain of the flesh and body, Tong Li chose to endure. She'd slowly seek revenge for all this from Duanling Tian in the future. Tong Liza by **H. Tong Liza by **H. Meanwhile, the female student that was kneeling on the ground opened her mouth and started shouting over and over again. After hearing the female student shout the same thing repeatedly 20 or 30 times, he was bored to the point that he started yawning. He looked at the refined female student beside him and lightly smiled. "What's your name?" The refined female student's face blushed like an apple as she lowered her head and said, in a low voice, "I'm Tangwa." "Tangwa? This name rather suits you." I'm going to class, so help me look after her. If she doesn't finish shouting 100 times like I instructed, or if this Tong Li dares to try any tricks, you can come to the grade 1-star mastermind department classroom to look for me." Duanling Tian passed the black whip in his hand to Tangua and lightly smiled to her once more before leaving. 1. Tangua was slightly excited in her heart as she watched Duanling Tian's figure disappear in the distance. Tong Liza by **H. Tong Liza by **H. The voice that entered her ears caused Tong Li's face to be extremely unsightly as she coldly shouted, "He's already gone. What are you still shouting for?" Instantly, the voice of the female student that was kneeling on the ground stopped abruptly, and she fearfully glanced at Tong Li. "Miss Li, I didn't mean to earlier. Truly, that Duanling Tian is too terrifying. What you mean is that he's terrifying and I'm not?" Tong Li's face sank as she interrupted the female student, then a fierce light flickered within her eyes. The female student who was kneeling on the ground didn't even have the time to explain herself when she heard Tangwa say, with a flushed face, "You've only shouted 41 times. There's still another 59 times. Hurry up." The body of the female student that was kneeling on the floor trembled. Only now did she realize that although Duanling Tian was gone, he had still left behind a representative. And as she recalled the threats Duanling Tian made earlier, she exhaled a deep breath of cold air before continuing to shout. Tong Liza by **H. Tong Liza by **H. Tong Li's face went grim as she stared angrily at Tangwa. "Little bitch, do you not want to live anymore?" Tangwa gritted her teeth, and her timid gaze slowly became firm. "If you have an objection, you can go look for Duanling Tian. He asked me to keep watch here, and since I've promised him, then I'll surely see to it properly." You. Tong Li extended her hand to point at Tangwa's nose. She was angered to the point that her body started trembling, and she wished for nothing more than to strangle this woman to death. But when she recalled what Duanling Tian said earlier, she still endured it in the end. "Humph!" Tong Li snorted coldly before turning to leave, and as she left, she didn't forget to threaten Tangwa. "You're Tangwa, right? I'll remember you." Tangwa gritted her teeth. When she recalled the words that the youth left behind earlier, her wavering gaze became firm once again. As far as she was concerned, since Duanling Tian was so confident in her, she couldn't let Duanling Tian be disappointed. What happened in the morning was only a small incident to Duan Ling Tian, and Tanghua was only a passing guest within his life. After a regular day passed, he, Xiao Sun, and Xiao Yu walked out of Paladin Academy together at dusk. Right at this moment, a carriage driver opened the curtain of a carriage that was stopped outside of Paladin Academy, and a person walked out of it. Duan Ling Tian frowned when he recognized the person. It was precisely the Duan clan's fourth master, Duan Ruhong. Duan Ling Tian didn't have any good impression of Duan Ruhong. He still remembered that when Duan Ling Xing desired to kill him in Fresh Breeze Townsley clan that day, this Duan Ruhong only snapped at Duan Ling Xing once and took no further action. Duan Ruhong seemed to notice Duan Ling Tian's hostile gaze, and a bitter smile appeared on the corners of his mouth before he said, "Can you come with me for a short chat?" "You two head home first," Duan Ling Tian said to Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun, before getting into the carriage. Within the carriage, Duan Ling Tian and Duan Ruhong sat facing each other as Duan Ling Tian indifferently said, "Be frank if you have something to say. If you're thinking of persuading me to return to the clan again, then please keep your opinion to yourself. I, Duan Ling Tian, will not lightly change my decision on something I've already decided on." When he first saw Duan Ruhong earlier, he'd already guessed Duan Ruhong's objective. He was surely here because Duan Ling Tian had revealed a strength that others mistook for being at the origin core stage yesterday morning. The Duan clan wanted to ask him to return to the clan and acknowledge his ancestors again. After all, an 18-year-old origin core martial artist was a unique existence even in the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom. "Let me finish before you decide." Duan Ruhong laughed bitterly. "Speak." Duan Ling Tian was slightly impatient as he spoke. Duan Ruhong took a deep breath as he slowly said, "It's like this. The Grand Elder, who is also the previous patriarch of our Duan clan, has spoken that as long as you're willing to return to the clan, acknowledge your ancestors, and admit yourself to be a Duan clan disciple, then our Duan clan will satisfy any conditions of yours as long as they're within the Duan clan's ability." Duan Ling Tian frowned. So good? Able to agree to any of his conditions? However, Duan Ling Tian understood that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Since the Duan clan is willing to give so much, I presume the Duan clan wants something, right? I wonder, what does the Duan clan want from me? Duan Ruhong glanced deeply at Duan Ling Tian. He suddenly felt that the youth before him was much more astute than his third brother, Duan Rufeng. The Duan clan does indeed have a request, and the objective is a void advancement pill. Void advancement pill? Duan Ling Tian's pupils constricted, as he, who had merged memories with Rebirth Martial Emperor, naturally knew what a void advancement pill was. Void advancement pill, a grade 5 medicinal pill, able to assist a half-step void stage martial artist bring about the 6-9 lightning tribulation within a short amount of time. After the martial artist finishes withstanding the tribulation, he will step into the void prying stage. Ordinarily speaking, a void advancement pill was something only consumed by those martial artists whose natural talent made it difficult for them to break through to the void prying stage. This is because once one consumes a void advancement pill and forcefully brings about the 6-9 lightning tribulation, it will leave behind an extremely serious side effect. A martial artist that forcefully broke through to the void prying stage with a void advancement pill would be able to at most cultivate to the 9th level of the void prying stage within their lifetime, and they would be unable to make any further breakthrough. It can be said that once one consumes a void advancement pill, it could be considered as destroying their own future. At the very least, Duan Ling Tian would rather die than consume a void advancement pill. However, to the group of half-step void stage martial artists within the Crimson Sky Kingdom, if they didn't have a void advancement pill, then it would be impossible for 90% or more of them to break through to the void prying stage. So the void advancement pill was their only choice, and they definitely paid no regard to the side effects the void advancement pill brought about. Even if it's only the 9th level of the void prying stage, it's still sufficient to act without a care within the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Even that void prying stage powerhouse within the Imperial family probably hasn't reached the 9th level of the void prying stage, Duan Ling Tian thought inwardly. Duan Ruhong was shocked in his heart when he noticed Duan Ling Tian pondering. Could it be that this kid knows what a void advancement pill is? After all, even though the void advancement pill couldn't be considered to be a secret, It wasn't something that just anyone would know of. Void Advancement Pill. The Duan clan really planned well. Duan Ling Tian sneered. However, why does the Duan clan think I can bring a Void Advancement Pill to them? Duan Ruhong's heart trembled. This kid really knew of the Void Advancement Pill. According to the Grand Elder's intention, it's to ask you to enter one of the top sects within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. With your natural talent, you'd surely be regarded highly by the higher-ups of those top sects. At that time, it wouldn't be difficult for you to get a Void Advancement Pill for the Duan clan. Enter a top sect within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? Duan Ling Tian's gaze focused and a smile of ridicule appeared on the corners of his mouth. Looks like the Duan clan had already planned everything. No wonder they would use such generous terms to rope him in. A1, TL note. Her name Tanghua in Chinese text is similarly pronounced as candy/sweets. Hi everyone, it's Kurazi here. I've seen many people complaining about the ads. I just want to say that regular releases are still being released as normal, but these chapters with ads are bonus chapters that were added on. So no one is forced to watch the ads. If you feel it to be annoying, follow the regular release, which is 2 chapters behind the advanced ad chapters. Conversely, if you want to support us TLED teams while gaining access to chapters that aren't supposed to be released yet, then please do watch the ads as you read every day. How about it? What's your decision? Duan Ruhong looked at Duan Ling Tian with a face full of anticipation. If it was before, he wouldn't have imagined that there would be a day he would speak humbly before this nephew of his. However, his nephew now had the qualifications to receive such treatment. After all, not just anyone was capable of possessing a cultivation at the origin core stage at the age of 18. Although he felt like the Duan clan using Duan Ling Tian was inappropriate, when he thought about it, if a void-prying stage powerhouse could appear within the Duan clan because of this, then he would undoubtedly be able to witness the moment the Duan clan walked towards a glorious future. As a disciple of the Duan clan, he anticipated the appearance of that moment. The Duan clan will really agree to any terms of mine? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed as he focused his gaze on Duan Ruhong and asked once more in confirmation. As long as it's within the Duan clan's ability, the clan will agree to anything. Duan Ruhong's face was serious as he spoke. The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth held a smile as he abruptly asked, "Even if I want you to die?" Duan Ruhong jolted, but he still nodded in all seriousness. "If my death can be exchanged for your return to the Duan clan, then the clan doesn't need to do it. I'll take my own life." Duan Ling Tian glanced deeply at Duan Ruhong. As the saying goes, the eye is the window to the soul. One is able to lie with their mouths, but their eyes would never lie. Presently, Duan Ling Tian couldn't see a shred of falseness in Duan Ruhong's eyes, and this would also mean that what Duan Ruhong said came from his heart. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but sigh. The people of this world had really been completely brainwashed. I'm kidding. Although I don't really approve of you, it hasn't come to the point of wanting your life. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled, as there wasn't a deep enmity between him and Duan Ruhong. Duan Ruhong heaved a sigh of relief, as he really thought that Duan Ling Tian wanted his life. However, if Duan Ling Tian really wanted his life, then for the sake of the Duan clan's future, he would absolutely not live a moment longer. Then do you agree now? Duan Ruhong asked once more, as when he noticed Duan Ling Tian's attitude, he suddenly felt that there might be a chance. Duan Ling Tian's gaze constricted, and as he finished speaking, he muttered to himself, "As long as the Duan clan can keep its promise, then what harm is there if I return to the clan and acknowledge my ancestors? In this way, I can be considered to have fulfilled a desire of my mother." The Duan clan was undoubtedly a clan that placed its benefit before all, and because there was value in using him, the Duan clan was able to pay any price for him. As far as Duan Ling Tian was concerned, since it was like this, why not use the Duan clan properly? Presently, no matter in which aspect, he was still in the startup stages, and if he really obtained the assistance of the Duan clan, then many difficulties could be easily solved. Moreover, in this way, he could still curry favor with his mother. So why not? As for the Void Advancement Pill the Duan clan wanted, that was something for the future, and he didn't need to think about it now. Duan Ruhong had a face full of delight when he heard what Duan Ling Tian said. Then when are you and your mother prepared to come to the Duan clan? I can get the patriarch to prepare a large courtyard for you, and it'll surely be more comfortable than you staying outside. It isn't necessary. We're living well outside. Even if I really return to the clan, acknowledge my ancestors, and admit myself to be a member of the Duan clan, I will still not return to stay at the Duan clan estate. Let me make this point clear to you first. Duan Ling Tian shook his head, and as he finished speaking, his face became serious. Duan Ruhong lightly smiled. This naturally isn't a problem. Not all of the Duan clan direct descendants stayed within the Duan clan estate, and there were many who stayed within their own courtyard houses outside, just like Duan Ruhong himself, who had a courtyard house outside. Duan Ling Tian pondered for a moment before giving Duan Ruhong an answer. As for when me and my mother return to the Duan clan, make it the day after tomorrow. As it happens, I don't have classes tomorrow and the day after. Okay, I'll send someone to get you at that time. Duan Ruhong's face revealed a smile. There's no need. We can get there ourselves. At that time, just don't let people shut us out. Duan Ling Tian refused Duan Ruhong's good intention before standing up and walking off the carriage. This hurried disposition of his is exactly like third brother all those years ago. Looks like he still hasn't forgotten about the matter that happened 2 years ago and still treats me so hostilely now. However, since he's agreed to return to the clan and acknowledge his ancestors, then my assignment this time can be considered to have been smoothly completed, Duan Ruhong muttered to himself before shaking his head with a smile. After returning home, Duan Ling Tian told his mother about the matter of returning to the Duan clan and acknowledging his ancestors. Tian, why'd you suddenly change your mind? Although Li Ro was taken by surprise and felt pleasantly surprised, she still had questions within her heart. She was understood the disposition of her son, and if he were to decide on a matter, then he wouldn't easily change his decision. I've thought about it lately and came around. The Duan clan's descendants' blood flows within me after all, and I can't really not return to the clan and acknowledge my ancestors for my entire lifetime. Duan Ling Tian spouted lies, as he naturally wouldn't tell the truth. Otherwise, his mother would surely start overthinking things. Mother knows that the matter is certainly not so simple. However, you being willing to return to the clan and acknowledge your ancestors can be considered as fulfilling a desire of mother's. Regarding the other matters, if you're unwilling to speak about it, then mother won't force you. Li Ro glanced deeply at Duan Ling Tian, as if she could see through his heart. Duan Ling Tian laughed embarrassedly. Only now did he recall that it wasn't so easy to bluff to his mother. On the second day, Duan Ling Tian, who didn't have to head to Paladin Academy, stayed at home and accompanied the two girls to pass the day in an intimate fashion. On the third day, Duan Ling Tian got Xiong Quan to prepare a carriage at dawn. Then he headed to the Duan clan's estate with his mother. Duan Ling Tian didn't bring the two girls along, as to him, going to the Duan clan to acknowledge his ancestors today was only a mere formality, and he would return in next to no time. The Duan clan estate covered a vast area, like a city within the city. On the way, Mom, you seem nervous. Duan Ling Tian looked at Li Ro as he smiled. You bad kid, actually daring to make fun of your mother. Mother is just feeling emotional. You're already so old now, which means that I left the Duan clan for so many years. Li Ro's gaze seemed to drift off as if she'd once again returned to those happy days when her husband hadn't vanished yet. Before long, under the driving of Xiong Quan, the carriage stopped before the Duan clan estate's main gate. The display is rather grand. Duan Ling Tian could vaguely see past the windows that a red carpet had been rolled out at the Duan clan estate's main gate, and servant girls and servants filled the sides of the red carpet. Li Ro was slightly stunned when she saw this scene, and she suddenly realized that her son choosing to return to the clan and acknowledge his ancestors this time would probably really not be so simple. Young master, madam, we've arrived. Xiong Quan's respectful voice entered the carriage. Duan Ling Tian got off the carriage first, and then respectfully supported his mother down before holding his mother's arm and walking onto the red carpet outside the Duan clan estate's main gate. Greetings, young master. Greetings, madam. Meanwhile, the servant girls and servants on either side of the red carpet respectfully bowed to Duan Ling Tian and his mother. Duan Ling Tian raised his head. He could see that at the Duan clan estate's main gate, a group of people that were originally standing there moved over to greet him. Among these people, a dignified middle-aged man and an awe-inspiring old man took the lead, and that fourth uncle of his, Duan Ruhong, followed behind as well. Duan Ling Tian held on to his mother as he went to greet them. Patriarch, big brother. Li Ro looked at the awe-inspiring old man and respectfully bowed before looking at the dignified middle-aged man at the side and lightly smiling in greeting. Ru Feng's wife. I'm not the Duan clan's patriarch anymore. Ru Hua is the patriarch. As for me, I'm now the Duan clan's grand elder. The awe-inspiring old man lightly smiled, and his tone towards Li Ro was extremely courteous. He's the previous Duan clan patriarch, Duan Zhen? Duan Ling Tian looked at the awe-inspiring old man as he thought inwardly and guessed the old man's identity. Li Ro shook her head and smiled. I've left for nearly 20 years now. I never imagined that patriarch would already have resigned from the leading post and big brother had become the patriarch. Tian, aren't you going to greet them? Li Ro's beautiful brows frowned as she talked to Duan Ling Tian. Greetings, patriarch, greetings, grand elder. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled to Duan Ruhua and Duan Zhen. As expected of Ru Feng's son, his appearance is extremely similar to Ru Feng's good, very good. Duan Zhen looked at Duan Ling Tian as if he was looking at a treasure, and his eyes shone. Yes, in the blink of an eye, the infant from all those years ago has grown so much. Duan Ruhua nodded as well and smiled lightly to Duan Ling Tian. Subsequently, the group of Duan clan elders came and greeted Duan Ling Tian and his mother. These Duan clan elders now all had smiles on their faces when they met Duan Ling Tian and his mother, and they didn't dare neglect them in the slightest. Duan Ling Tian sneered in his heart when he saw this scene. They're really snobbish. That year, his mother brought him, who was still an infant, and left the Duan clan all alone, and not one person stopped her, leaving a baby and a widow to wander outside. Now, when they knew that Duan Ling Tian was capable of obtaining a void advancement pill for the Duan clan, all of them were like flies as they came to get close to him. Duan Ling Tian only felt a wave of disgust within his heart. Before long, Duan Ling Tian finished acknowledging his ancestors within the Duan clan's ancestral shrine under the direction of Patriarch Duan Ruhua and once again returned to the Duan clan. After everything was completed, Duan Ruhua said to Duan Ling Tian, Little Tian, if you have any needs in the future, feel free to tell your uncle. Thank you, Patriarch. Duan Ling Tian hurriedly nodded. Besides that, you don't have to worry about the matter with the Su clan, as the clan will help you deal with it. Duan Ruhua continued to say to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian's gaze slightly moved. This patriarch was an intelligent man, and he knew that his mother was present, so he didn't speak in detail about the conflict between him and the Su clan. However, even then, doubt still arose within Li Ro's heart. Tian, what happened between you and the Su clan? Li Ro asked curiously after returning to the carriage. Mom, it's nothing. It's just that a Su clan direct descendant provoked me with the academy and was injured by me, Duan Ling Tian casually said. Li Ro nodded as if this wasn't any big deal, but it was a mystery as to what Li Ro would think if she knew that Duan Ling Tian had crippled a person's dantian and destroyed his entire life. Hey, brothers, have you all heard? That Duan Ling Tian, whose name was spread and gave rise to much discussion a while ago, has broken through to the origin core stage. I've known of this news since a few days ago. I have a distant cousin who's at Paladin Academy. Forgive my disrespect, brother. You're actually the cousin of a Paladin Academy student. Don't mention it. Then, brother, do you know that just this morning, that Duan Ling Tian returned to the Duan clan and acknowledged his ancestors? There's such a thing? Hee. A distant cousin of mine is a Duan clan servant girl. Allegedly, the display was rather grand. Didn't that Duan Ling Tian refuse to return to the Duan clan before? That's all history, and not worth mentioning. Within a restaurant in the Imperial City's inner city, two young men were chatting and became acquainted with each other. And presently, similar conversations were taking place throughout the Imperial City inner city. Duan Ling Tian, the youth who stepped into the origin core stage at the age of 18, and the publicly acknowledged #1 genius within Paladin Academy. Now he had an extra title of a Duan clan direct descendant disciple added on. In the eyes of the people within the imperial city, it was sufficient to call Duan Ling Tian one who was favored by the heavens, and his current status even surpassed Duan Ru Feng all those years ago. The Su clan estate. Within a spacious courtyard, an old man raised his hand and the stone table within the courtyard shattered with a crack before crashing onto the ground. "Grandfather, what's happened?" A young man whose complexion was slightly sickly pale walked out from within his room and looked questioningly at the old man. "Tong, why have you come out? Your injuries haven't healed, and you need to rest more." The old man looked at the young man, and a strand of guilt flashed within his eyes. "Grandfather, has something happened?" Su Tong's face sank. Streams of light spiraled within the old man's eyes as he forced out a smile. "Nothing happened. Don't overthink things." "Grand Elder." However, right at this moment, the Su clan's patriarch, Su Boya, paid him a visit, and Su Boya looked at the old man who was the Su clan's Grand Elder as he walked into the courtyard. "Patriarch." Su Nan and Su Tong bowed to Su Boya. Su Boya looked at Su Nan as he slowly said, "Grand Elder, I presume you've heard of the matter of that Duan Ling Tian returning to the Duan clan and acknowledging his ancestors, right?" Su Nan's face sank as he nodded. "What?" Su Tong's face went ghastly pale. That Duan Ling Tian actually returned to the Duan clan and acknowledged his ancestors? At this instant, he only felt the sky go dark, and only darkness was left before his eyes. In the past 2 days, he'd heard of the news regarding Duan Ling Tian's break through to the origin core stage. He was shocked towards Duan Ling Tian's peerless natural talent, and his heart was filled with resentment. He wished for nothing more than to hack Duan Ling Tian into pieces. However, as far as he was concerned, even if Duan Ling Tian's natural talent in the martial Dao was strong, he didn't have any strong background, and thus it wasn't difficult for his grandfather to take revenge for him. But now, the news of Duan Ling Tian returning to the Duan clan was undoubtedly like a thunderbolt that dropped out of the clear sky, striking Su Tong until he felt like it was difficult to breathe. An 18-year-old origin core martial artist wasn't anything great because if he was unable to mature, then everything was in vain. But once an 18-year-old origin core martial artist was branded with the brand of the Duan clan, he would undoubtedly receive an extra layer of a life-saving talismans. The Duan clan would absolutely not allow anything to happen to a genius martial artist like Duan Ling Tian. Grand Elder, the Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ru Hong, has already spoken with me about Su Tong's matter. He's willing to hand over a restaurant under the Duan clan within the outer city to our Su clan. That restaurant will be handed to your family. How about it? Su Boya looked at Su Nan as he slowly spoke. "Patriarch, what does that Duan Ru Huo want? He wants us to put down the enmity with that Duan Ling Tian?" Su Nan's face sank as he spoke in a nearly howling voice. "Grand Elder." Su Boya frowned, and his voice went slightly colder. He was the patriarch of the clan, but this Grand Elder actually dared to shout and howl before him. Where would he put his face? "Patriarch." Su Nan came to his sense and said apologetically, "I was just furious for a moment earlier. I hope the patriarch can forgive me." "Humph." Su Boya's cold and indifferent gaze swept past Su Nan. "Grand Elder, the reason I came here today, besides notifying your family to go take over that restaurant, the other reason is to give you a reminder. In the future, at the very least, don't go looking for trouble with that Duan Ling Tian. Otherwise, if anything were to happen to your family because of this, the clan won't stand forward for you." "What?" Su Nan's face went gloomy, and Su Tong, who was beside Su Nan, had a face full of rage. What the patriarch said at the end was undoubtedly indicating the Su clan's standpoint, and the meaning was if he and his family were to look for trouble with Duan Ling Tian, then the Su clan would isolate them. "Patriarch, my family members are still direct descendants. You're isolating us just for the sake of Duan Ling Tian? I wonder if this is the intention of the patriarch, or the clan's intentions." Su Nan's face was gloomy, and as he finished speaking, there was a vague questioning tone within his voice. "Presumptuous." Su Boya's face went grim. "Grand Elder, You actually dare go against your superiors. Right at this moment, a group of people flowed in from outside the courtyard. They were precisely the group of Su clan elders. You all. A bad premonition arose within Su Nan's heart when he saw all these people appear. Grand Elder, you mustn't misunderstand the Patriarch, as what the Patriarch said earlier is something that we unanimously approved and agreed upon. The corners of the Su clan's second elder's mouth curled into a sneer. Su Nan's face sank, and his gaze swept past all of the Su clan elders present before he said, in a low voice, "What that Duan clan paid for the matter with my grandson probably isn't just simply a restaurant, right?" Exactly. The restaurant in the outer city is only the Duan clan's compensation to your family. What the Duan clan compensated our Su clan is a yearly place in the recommendation quota into Paladin Academy. In other words, the Duan clan will provide one out of their original 5 places in the recommendation quota to our Su clan. In this way, our Su clan and the Duan clan would similarly have a yearly recommendation quota of 4. The second elder didn't deny it. What generosity of the Duan clan! Su Nan's face sank and turned pale as he finally understood what happened. Patriarch, fellow elders, if there isn't anything else, then Su Nan won't be entertaining you. Su Nan took a deep breath, and his tone had an unapproachable intent mixed within. He understood that the milk was already spilled, and this matter wasn't something he could alter anymore. Su Bo Yu's brows knit, and he shook his head before leaving with the group of Su clan elders. No, I won't accept this, grandfather. I won't accept this. Su Tong's face was deathly pale. He held his head in his hands, grabbing onto his hair until it seemed like a mass of loose rags, and unceasingly shook his head, as he was unwilling to believe that all this was real. Pooh! Meanwhile, Su Nan's face flushed and a mouthful of blood forcefully came out of his mouth. This was blood he spat from being enraged by the Su clan's higher-ups. Tong, don't worry. Even if I have to risk abandoning our family, grandfather will still take revenge for you. You're the one and only descendant of our family. But since your future's been destroyed, then our family doesn't have any future to talk about. Su Nan's eyes flickered with a cold night, and his face was filled with ruthlessness and malice. Within the audience hall of the 5th Prince's estate, the 5th Prince's face slowly went gloomy as he heard the white-browed old man's report. Wasn't that Duan Ling Tian rather strong-willed? He returned so easily to the clan that abandoned him so many years ago? 5th Prince's pupils constricted, as the matter of Duan Ling Tian, returning to the Duan clan, slightly exceeded his expectations. Your Highness, my guess is that upon seeing Duan Ling Tian being able to break through to the origin core stage at the age of 18, the Duan clan looked favorably upon Duan Ling Tian's future, and thus made heavy promises that tempted Duan Ling Tian, the white-browed old man slowly said. Humph! To think that I thought he was an unyielding person in the beginning. The 5th Prince's voice was filled with disdain. Cousin! Right at this moment, a red figure flashed into the audience hall. The icy cold expression of the 5th Prince's face instantly melted, and he lightly smiled. Little girl, you are in such a rush. Is there something the matter? The person who entered was precisely Tong Li. Tong Li's face sank. Cousin, I heard that Duan Ling Tian returned to the Duan clan. Is this true? Yes, I've just heard from Senior Bai as well. The 5th Prince nodded. Then, my revenge, does it mean I can't have it anymore? Tong Li's eyes emitted a trace refusal to accept it, and her face was filled with unwillingness. Li, don't worry. Even if that Duan Ling Tian has the support of the Duan clan, your cousin won't let him off. However, your cousin needs to give the matter further thought. The 5th Prince continued, didn't you say the other time that a female student within Paladin Academy bullied you a few days ago? I'll ask Senior Bai to send a few people to you, and you can go deal with her. Tong Li's eyes shone. Thank you, cousin. Within a spacious courtyard house's rear courtyard, Duan Ling Tian was comfortably lying down on a deck chair with closed his eyes and was bathing in the sun. Li Fei, who had an angelic face and devilish figure, sat beside him and helped him massage his legs. Little Fei, a little bit higher. Right there. Oh, comfortable. Duan Ling Tian heaved a sigh, and his face revealed a satisfied smile. "Young master, open your mouth." Ku-er, who was gentle like water, sat on the other side of Duanling Tian and placed grapes that had their skins peeled into Duanling Tian's mouth. Duanling Tian ate grapes as he enjoyed the massage and felt his entire body easing up. He had really spent these last few days comfortably like a god. "Young master, was it fun when you went to the Duan clan to acknowledge your ancestors this morning?" Ku-er asked, with a tone that had a trace of curiosity mixed within. Duanling Tian slowly opened his eyes when he heard what she said. He noticed that Li Fei was looking at him as well. What fun would there be? It was nothing more than a formality. Li Fei smiled as she said. Aunt Ro looked rather happy. Of course, Mother had been waiting for this day for God knows how long. This time it can be considered as fulfilling Mother's desire. Duanling Tian nodded. Besides paving the road for himself, the matter this time had one more reason, and that was his mother. Otherwise, even if the Duan clan's patriarch were to personally request it of him, it was unlikely that Duanling Tian would be willing to return to the Duan clan. That clan that was icy cold and indifferent like a block of ice. Even though Duanling Tian had already returned to the clan and acknowledged his ancestors now, he didn't have any sense of belonging to the clan, and at most it was just a relationship of mutual advantage. At dawn the next day, Duanling Tian walked out of his own house and headed towards the Paladin Academy. 2 days of holidays passed so quickly. Duanling Tian's eyes slightly narrowed as he slowly walked into Paladin Academy. Meanwhile, he could still notice many gazes that were staring at him, and as he was accustomed to it now, he directly ignored them. When Duanling Tian just entered the classroom, he noticed the gazes of the group of students within the classroom gather on him. Duanling Tian, congratulations. Xiao Sun looked at Duanling Tian as he congratulated him with a smile. What are you congratulating me for? Duanling Tian was dazed and was unable to react to it. What else? It's naturally congratulating you on returning to the Duan clan and once again becoming a member of the Duan clan's direct descendants, Xiao Yu added. He was happy for Duanling Tian as well. After all, even his heart trembled when he thought of the circumstances Duanling Tian faced before this. The fifth prince and the Su clan weren't easy to deal with. And now, Duanling Tian had returned to the Duan clan, and with Duanling Tian's monstrous natural talent in the martial Dao, he would surely receive double the regard from the Duan clan. As far as he was concerned, even the fifth prince and the Su clan wouldn't dare act rashly now. So it's about this. Duanling Tian shook his head with a smile, as he didn't feel that it could be considered to be a happy thing. However, he'd more or less perceived Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun's thoughts, and a trace of warmth couldn't be avoided from arising within his heart. These are the friends of Duanling Tian. An entire morning worth of time passed quickly. At noon, after class ended, Duanling Tian's group of 3 headed to the cafeteria as usual. Duanling Tian's group of 3 stopped their steps when they just arrived at the cafeteria, and it wasn't for any other reason than a person standing in their path. This was a female student with an ordinary appearance and a rounded figure. But at this moment, what caused Duanling Tian's group of 3 to be stunned was the resentment that appeared on this female student's face. It was as if someone had hurt her. Fellow student, this is? Xiao Sun had a bewildered expression. He glanced at Duanling Tian and Xiao Yu with a strange gaze as he thought in his heart, it can't be some romantic debt that one of these 2 fellows secretly owe, right? No, their views shouldn't be unique to this extent. Duanling Tian and Xiao Yu's expressions were similar to Xiao Yu's. Even their thoughts were identical in nature. Duanling Tian. Suddenly, the female student spoke with a tone that had a sense of grief and resentment mixed within. Duanling Tian was stunned. Xiao Sun and Xiao Yu swept Duanling Tian with a dubious gaze and expressions that said, "You really have such strong tastes." "I don't know her." Duanling Tian glared at the 2 of them, as he naturally perceived what these 2 dirty fellows were thinking. "Indeed, you don't know me." The female student took a deep breath and then said, with a face full of grief and resentment, "Then you should at least know Manhwa, right?" Manhwa? Duanling Tian frowned. He felt that this name seemed familiar, but for a moment he couldn't recall it. Kiki. The female student had a mocking expression. It's only been 2 days and you've forgotten her? To think that she fought against the pressure and persisted in completing the task that you entrusted to her. I really feel like you're not worthy of Tanghwa. She actually lost her life just to help you. When the female student was halfway through her speech, Duanling Tian had already recalled it. Tanghwa was precisely that female student with a refined face from before. At that time, Tanghwa was bullied by Tongli, so he helped Tanghwa. After that, he even gave Tongli a show of force by making that female student beside Tongli kneel on the ground and shout, "Tongli is a by asterisk asterisk." Later on, he felt bored and left first, and before leaving, he asked Tanghwa to help keep watch on that female student to finish shouting 100 times. Now, when he finished listening to this female student's words that were full of grief and resentment, Duanling Tian's face went gloomy. "What did you say? Tanghwa is dead?" Duanling Tian's eyes were filled with bloodlust, and a terrifying killing intent extended out from his body. The female student was frightened to the point that her face went ghastly pale. She gritted her teeth and nodded. "Yes." What actually happened? Duanling Tian took a deep breath. He had an extremely gloomy expression on his face as he suppressed the rage within his heart. "It went like this. Yesterday was a holiday, so Tanghwa and I went out to take a spin around the city, but halfway through our trip, Tongli brought some people to capture us and brought us to a remote alley. Tanghwa's hands were chopped off by Tongli first, before her legs were chopped off. After that, Tongli used water to splash Tanghwa awake after she fainted. Then she tortured Tanghwa for half an hour before ending her life." The female student had a deathly pale face, and her eyes were filled with terror. Yesterday, she was really scared stiff and couldn't sleep the entire night. Even after returning to Paladin Academy, she was scared out of her wits. Duanling Tian's face was gloomy, as he'd never imagined that one decision of his could actually destroy Tanghwa's life. A trace of regret arose within his heart. He shouldn't have let Tanghwa help him. Otherwise, Tongli wouldn't have moved her rage onto Tanghwa. Tongli. Duanling Tian's eyes were crimson red, and the killing intent on his body swept out without restraint. Instantly, with Duanling Tian at the center, Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun couldn't help but retreat. They looked at Duanling Tian with fearful gazes. As for that female student, she'd long since been terrified to the point of retreating far off into the distance. Duanling Tian. Xiao Yu and Xiao Yu had faces full of worry. Even though they didn't know who Tanghwa was, they could guess that there probably was some sort of relationship between Duanling Tian and Tanghwa, and now that Tanghwa had been killed by Tongli, Duanling Tian's eyes revealed a crimson hue. He seemed to have transformed into a bloodthirsty Azura. Meanwhile, many students had surrounded him. "Isn't that Duanling Tian? He seems enraged. Isn't that female student a friend of Tanghwa's? Looks like Duanling Tian is furious about the incident regarding Tanghwa." "Who's Tanghwa?" The group of students that surrounded the scene started discussing amongst themselves, and among them was no lack of people who knew the cause of the entire matter. So in other words, Tanghwa left yesterday and hasn't returned since? 90% chances she been killed by Tongli for revenge. Some of the students secretly guessed, and strands of coldness arose within their hearts. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun finally understood the details of the entire matter from the discussion of these spectators. So that's what happened. They finally understood why Duanling Tian would be so angry. Who knows where Tongli is now? Duanling Tian's crimson red eyes swept past the group of students, and his cold and indifferent voice had a breathtaking coldness mixed within. In this instant, all the students present felt a wave of chilliness on their backs, and their hearts went cold. Duanling Tian, what happened? Right at this moment, Tian Hu had arrived as well, and he couldn't help but be stunned when he saw Duanling Tian's current appearance. In next to no time, Tian Hu found out about the matter from Xiao Sun, and he burst into rage. "That Tongli is virtually a crazy by asterisk asterisk H. No, she's absolutely worse than an animal. How that Tanghwa must have suffered before death." Meanwhile, the faces of the surrounding group of students went grim as well, as Xiao Sun didn't intentionally suppress his voice when he recounted the details of the matter to Tian Hu, and thus everyone present heard what happened. Tanghua was actually alive as she was dismembered to death by that Tongli? Many of the surrounding female students had pale expression, and some female students who had just eaten and walked out of the cafeteria even started vomiting out what they just ate. If I see Tongli, that crazy by **H, I don't care if she's the cousin of the fifth prince. I'll give her a few slaps and then we can talk. Tian, whose expression was extremely unsightly and was filled with righteous indignation. Even though Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun didn't speak, their eyes revealed a trace of coldness. That Tongli was really too atrocious. Who said he wants to slap me? Right at this moment, a cold and indifferent voice of a girl echoed out from behind the surrounding crowd. The crowd opened up a path, and Tongli, who wore red clothes, could be vaguely seen walking over shoulder to shoulder with a young man around the age of 25. The young man was wearing green clothes, had an ordinary appearance, and had a sheathed machete hanging on his waist. An aura of slaughter was vaguely emitted from his body, as he obviously was someone who had received special training. Isn't that Xuelang? Many of the students couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice when they saw the young man. Xuelang? Tian, whose face went grim, as he'd never imagined that Tongli would be together with Xuelang. Xuelang, a grade 6 student of Paladin Academy and a martial artist at the second level of the Origin Core stage. In terms of natural talent, this Xuelang was only a tiny bit inferior to Su Tong, who had his Dantian crippled by Duanling Tian. As he thought of Su Tong, Tian, whose heart calmed, as Duanling Tian wasn't afraid of Su Tong and directly crippled him, so would he be afraid of this Xuelang? Tongli. Duanling Tian's crimson eyes descended onto Tongli, and a terrifying killing intent swept out from his body to envelop Tongli. Tongli, who held her head high a moment ago, now had an expression that instantly went deathly pale, and her body even started trembling. Humph! Xuelong, who was currently standing beside Tongli, snorted coldly and stood before Tongli to help her block out the boundless killing intent. Xuelang's pupils couldn't help but constrict when he replaced Tongli and was enveloped by the killing intent. What a terrifying killing intent! You're Duanling Tian? Xuelang's gaze descended onto Duanling Tian, and a trace of coldness appeared on the corners of his mouth. K off. Duanling Tian's eyes emitted a cold light when he saw Xuelang stand out, and he shouted coldly, "You asked me to K off?" Xuelang seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world when he heard what Duanling Tian said. Duanling Tian, I know your natural talent in the martial Dao is great, and now you've even returned to the Duan clan, even receiving high regard from the Duan clan. But even then, there's some people you can't afford to offend within the imperial city. As he finished speaking, Xuelang's face was filled with arrogance and complacence. Is that so? Duanling Tian's eyes focused as his icy cold gaze descended onto Xuelang's body. I don't know about other people, but I, Duanling Tian, don't acknowledge you. Being provoked by Duanling Tian in public caused Xuelang's face to go grim. Duanling Tian. Meanwhile, Tongli spoke, and her voice contained a trace of icy coldness. Big Brother Xuelang is the Imperial City's Guard Army commander, Lord Xuelu's only son. Not to mention you. Even your Duan clan's patriarch would need to be respectful when they meet Big Brother Xuelang's father. Is that so? Duanling Tian abruptly started laughing. Miss Tong, no wonder you recovered your usual arrogance today. So it turned out that you found a backer. Although Duanling Tian was currently laughing, everyone present could feel the infinite rage that Duanling Tian's laugh contained. Exactly. Big Brother Xuelang is my backer. How about it? Scared? Tongli replied in a cold voice. At this moment, she wasn't afraid of Duanling Tian in the slightest. Xuelang was someone her cousin Fifth Prince introduced to her yesterday, and the purpose was to provide her with a backer within Paladin Academy, so she wouldn't have to fear Duanling Tian. Moreover, Xuelang indeed didn't disappoint her, as every time she mentioned Duanling Tian, he would have a face full of disdain and looked down upon Duanling Tian. This caused her to feel that her backer was extremely strong, and he absolutely wasn't someone Duanling Tian was capable of shaking. Look like, Miss Tong, you want your memory refreshed this time? Duanling Tian's crimson-red eyes abruptly turned gloomy. Duanling Tian, I know you've broken through to the origin core stage now, but even if you've broken through to the origin core stage, what about it? Big Brother Xuelang is a second-level origin core stage powerhouse. Tongli grunted as she spoke, and her tone was filled with extreme disdain towards Duanling Tian. When Xuelang heard what Tongli said, his originally arrogant expression became even more arrogant, and his gaze looked down condescendingly at Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian, I heard from Tongli that you've hit her before? Indeed. Duanling Tian's eyes went slightly cold, and the gaze he looked at Xuelang with didn't have any hint of emotion. Xuelang felt embarrassed from humiliation when he heard Duanling Tian's casual reply, and he snapped, kneel down right now and kowtow an apology to Little Li, and maybe out of respect for the Duan clan, I might not pursue the matter any further. Or else, even if you're a Duan clan direct descendant, I'll still properly teach you how to conduct yourself. Kowtow an apology? Are you sure? Duanling Tian's voice sank, and instantly the air seemed to be affected by him. It went slightly colder. Kneel down. Xuelang glared fiercely at Duanling Tian as he shouted coldly. And at the same time, origin energy slowly came out of Xuelang's right hand. It flashed as it twined around his hand. It seemed like he would attack Duanling Tian at any moment. So what if I don't kneel? Duanling Tian had a mocking expression on his face as he swept Xuelang with a disdainful gaze. Asking others to kneel down at every turn. Does this Xuelang actually think he is the emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom? Not to mention it was only Xuelang. Even if it was the emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom in the flesh, it would still be impossible for him to make Duanling Tian kneel. Not kneeling? Then I'll have to help the Duan clan properly teach you how to conduct yourself. Xuelang sneered as he took a step forward. I'll give you one more chance. K off out of my line of sight right now? Or else, even if you're the son of that guard army commander or whatever, I still won't show mercy. Duanling Tian's eyes moved about and were suffused with a gloomy sheen as he stared at Xuelang. If this Xuelang was insensible and didn't retreat in the face of difficulties, then don't blame him for being ruthless and merciless. Tangwa's death caused flames of fury to burn within Duanling Tian's heart. It had accumulated to the brim and currently showed signs of being unable to be suppressed anymore. They would explode out at any moment. If this Xuelang really were to really attack him now, then he could only blame himself for being misfortunate. I really want to see how you would show no mercy. The sneer on Xuelang's face grew wider as he looked at Duanling Tian with a gaze full of disdain. Big Brother Xuelang, I want him dead. Tong Li's voice echoed out at the right moment and seemed to transform into the fuse of the battle. Instantly, Xuelang's spirit was stimulated by this, and his gaze went cold as his body flashed out as if transforming into a rock. He dove down towards where Duanling Tian was. He wanted to show off in front of Tongli, so he attacked with full force at the start. Above him, 30 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form and moved with his body as they dashed out with an imposing manner that shot through the sky. Idiot! Duanling Tian's gaze went cold when faced with Xuelang, who approached in full fury, and his hand moved along his waist before his violet myrtle flexible sword flashed out. Blood Crescent Inscription. Instantly, a blood light flashed out from the blade of the violet myrtle flexible sword. The blood light condensed into form, eventually transforming into a blood crescent before moving to intercept Xuelang. OM. The blood crescent's speed was extremely swift, so it instantly arrived before Xuelang. Xuelang's face, which was covered with a sneer, instantly went deathly pale. His pupils constricted, and he shouted in alarm. No! At this moment, he'd noticed the strength contained within this blood crescent as well, and it was absolutely not something he was capable of withstanding. This was the strength of an inscription that caused him to palpitate and be terrified. It's an offensive inscription. Some students with sharp gazes couldn't help from crying out in alarm. Pooh! A blood crescent flew into the air and pierced into the location of Xuelang's dantian, as if cutting through tofu, and directly twisted into his dantian. Ah! Accompanied by a miserable shrill cry that made people palpitate, Xuelang's forward-charging body trembled in the air before falling straight down. Bang! Dust suffused in the air. Xuelang, who was approaching in full fury just a moment ago, instantly seemed to become a dead dog. He lied there and heavily gasped for air. He struggled as he withdrew a gold injury pill to consume, and his complexion eased up slightly. However, when he tried to perceive the origin energy within his dantian, he instead noticed that his dantian was absolutely empty. Dantian destroyed? Xuelang's pupils constricted, and his expression became agitated. His gaze revealed insanity when he looked at Duanling Tian and sneered. Duanling Tian, you actually crippled my dantian. You actually crippled my dantian. You're a dead man. You're a dead man. Then I'll be waiting to see. Duanling Tian's gaze was calm when faced with Xuelang's threats, as if everything that just happened wasn't worth mentioning. And at this moment, the crowd of spectating students was deathly silent, and only after a moment were they in an uproar. Oh my god, Duanling Tian actually crippled Xuelang's dantian. With his dantian crippled, Xuelang's entire life can be considered to be utterly destroyed. Forcefully coming forward for the sake of such a woman and destroyed his own life. Was it worth? I never imagined that Duanling Tian actually possessed such a terrifying inscription. Origin core martial artists are like paper before that inscription. All the students were dumbstruck. Xuelang, a grade 6 student in existence at the second level of the Origin core stage, was crippled by the grade 1 student, Duanling Tian, just like that. As expected. Compared to the shock of these students, Xiaoyu, Xiaosun, and Tian, who instead seemed to have long since guessed the result of this scene. They remembered that Su Tong, who was a third-level Origin core martial artist and the former number 1 within the Su clan's younger generation at that time, also had his dantian crippled by Duanling Tian in this way. The inscription Duanling Tian used at that time was of the same type, and how similar was the scene at that time to the scene before them. They were confident that if the news of that matter regarding Su Tong wasn't suppressed by Paladin Academy and instead spread around the entire Paladin Academy, today, Xuelang would absolutely not dare be so arrogant before Duanling Tian. In their opinion, Xuelang's actions were virtually no different from suicide. No, impossible. How could this be possible? Tongli looked at Xuelang, who was suffering to the point that he unceasingly rolled on the ground, and for a moment she was stunned, as she was unwilling to believe that all this was real. Xuelang was a second-level Origin core martial artist, the backer her cousin found for her. She didn't care about Xuelang's fate. What she cared about was that since Xuelang had fallen, there would be no one to stand in front of her and block Duanling Tian. Tong Li's face was deathly pale, and she started to retreat backwards. Now she only hoped to leave this place before Duanling Tian reacted. What? Miss Tong, this Xuelang only suffered such a fate because he came forward for you, but you're already planning to flee by yourself? Duanling Tian naturally noticed Tong Li's petty actions. The corners of his mouth curled into a sneer, and his voice was filled with a mocking tone. What Duanling Tian said unsurprisingly gave rise to a stir within the spectating group of students. Xuelang is too pitiable. His dantian was crippled for the sake of this Tongli. And not only did this Tongli not care, she even wanted to leave Xuelang and flee. Actually, it isn't strange. This Tongli is capable of being so cruel and merciless to that Tanghua, and that's sufficient to show that her heart is as poisonous as a scorpion. How could she possibly care about another's fate? I really feel like it was not worth it for Xuelang. He should have let Duanling Tian teach a lesson to such a woman. As soon as Duanling Tian finished speaking, Tong Li's body froze, as she knew she couldn't avoid it today. Presently, the surrounding discussions caused her expression to become even more unsightly. Ha 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 ha. Hearing the surrounding discussion, Xuelang struggled to lift his head to glance at Tong Li, and when he noticed Tong Li that was indeed preparing to sneak off, he abruptly started laughing as if he'd gone insane, and he spat out blood as he laughed. After he finished spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, he fainted, obviously being seriously enraged. Duanling Tian, if you dare touch me, then my cousin will surely tear you into pieces. If you're sensible, then let me leave. and maybe I will plead to my cousin to leave your corpse intact." Tongli looked at Duan Ling Tian, and even though her eyes emitted terror, she didn't forget to threaten Duan Ling Tian. "Is that so?" Duan Ling Tian's face revealed a wide grin as he walked out in large strides towards Tongli. "You don't come any closer." Tongli retreated 2 steps backwards and was slightly seized with panic. At the same time, on the cafeteria pavilion, a middle-aged man and an old man stood there as they watched this scene from afar. "Dean, if we still don't stop it, I'm afraid this Tongli will meet a bad ending." The person that spoke was precisely the gray-clothed old man, or in other words, Paladin Academy's vice dean, Zhang Xiong. Zhang Xiong treated the middle-aged man beside him with the utmost respect and reverence. Within Paladin Academy, the only person who could make Zhang Xiong treat him so respectfully and even address him as dean would only be the elusive dean of Paladin Academy. "Do you think it would be of any use?" Based on the enmity that Duan Ling Tian just revealed, even if we were to stop him at this moment, he would probably attack her in the next moment. Could it be that we're able to be by Tong Li's side to protect her at all time? The middle-aged man shook his head and had a carefree expression. "Moreover, you've heard of the actions of this Tong Li just now. No matter how you put it, that Tanghua is still a student of my Paladin Academy, but she actually killed her in such a brutal manner. That is virtually an act that would incur the hatred of both humans and the gods." Zhang Xiong came to a sudden understanding as he watched the situation develop with a calm gaze, and after a while he gulped down a mouthful of saliva as he said in his heart, "This Duan Ling Tian wouldn't really kill Tongli, right?" Slap, 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 slap. Duan Ling Tian walked to arrive before Tongli with a cold and indifferent expression, and just like the past 2 occasions, he raised his hands and once again beat Tong Li's head into a pig's head. Tong Li's eyes didn't contain a trace of feelings, and it flickered with a gloomy light as she stared at Duan Ling Tian. She already hated Duan Ling Tian to the depths of her bones. Tong Li originally thought that it would be considered to be over once Duan Ling Tian swung over 10 slaps at her, but she quickly realized that all this wasn't over. "Miss Li, I really never imagined that your heart was so atrocious. Actually using such brutal methods to kill Tanghua. I'm really curious, what deep enmity did you have with her? Did she hit you? Insult you?" Duan Ling Tian stared fixedly at Tong Li as he spoke with a tranquil voice. Tong Li glared hatefully at Duan Ling Tian, and her swollen mouth lightly moved as she spoke in an unclear manner. "Who asked that by **h to be insensible and embarrass me in public, that by **h deserve to die?" Within her voice, there wasn't the slightest trace of regret. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath as he asked, in a low voice, "You tortured her to death just because of this?" Tong Li seemed to become aware of Duan Ling Tian's suppressed rage, so she hurriedly shut her mouth. She was extremely perturbed in her heart and was extremely afraid that Duan Ling Tian would kill her without saying a word. She'd seen Duan Ling Tian's methods many times in these past few days and knew that this was a madman that wasn't afraid of anything. Duan Ling Tian even seemed to not fear her cousin, the 5th prince, in the slightest. Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto the place Tong Li's Dantian resided as he muttered to himself, "I'm thinking, if your cultivation were to be preserved, it would probably only bring disaster onto more people. Instead, why not?" No. Tong Li seemed to have realized something when she heard what Duan Ling Tian said, and her face went deathly pale and she retreated backwards. However, how could she possibly flee before Duan Ling Tian? Bang! Duan Ling Tian slapped out his palm to hit onto Tong Li's Dantian. He urged out his origin energy before smashing it into Tong Li's Dantian, reducing it to pieces. "Ah!" Tong Li's bitter and shrill cry sounded, and her face, which was originally swollen, emitted a hideous expression. At the same time that her body violently trembled, she didn't forget to stare at Duan Ling Tian hatefully. Bang! Finally, under the sharp pain, Tong Li couldn't stand stably on her feet anymore and crashed onto the ground. Her eyes revealed a scarlet-red hue and emitted bloodthirsty hatred. As in this world where the strong were revered, crippling one's Dantian was more painful than killing them. Humph! Duan Ling Tian's icy cold gaze flashed past Tongli before turning around and walking into the cafeteria. Everywhere Duan Ling Tian passed, the crowd of students who came to spectate would make way for him, and their eyes emitted reverence. Even those higher-grade students now felt afraid in their hearts when they saw Duan Ling Tian. Xuelang, who was at the second level of the Origin Core stage, was crippled by Duan Ling Tian just like that. This Duan Ling Tian was too terrifying. It was incomparably quiet during their meal. Xiao Yu, Xiao Sun, and Tian, who seemed to be able to understand Duan Ling Tian's current mood and didn't bother him. Only when they'd nearly finished eating did Xiao Yu sigh as he persuaded, Duan Ling Tian, don't be too hard on yourself. It isn't your fault. You helped Tangwa out of good intentions. Moreover, even if you didn't interfere, with Tong Li's atrocious nature, Tangwa wouldn't have a good end anyway. Don't worry, I'm fine. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. Although he said that, in the afternoon, Duan Ling Tian didn't cultivate and instead lied on the large tree at the side of the martial arts practice ground as he stared blankly into the sky. At the same time, the matter of Duan Ling Tian crippling Xuelang and Tongli was like a hurricane as it swept through the entire Paladin Academy. Of course, after everyone knew of the details, they didn't feel any pity towards Xuelang and Tongli, as they felt they deserved it. Imperial City, within the City Guard Army's campsite. Bang! A loud sound resounded from within the largest camp in the middle on the campsite. It was a robust middle-aged man in light armor who went into a violent rage and smashed the table before him into pieces. Whoosh! In the next moment, under the astounded gaze of the person who brought the report, the robust middle-aged man transformed into an afterimage as he instantly flashed out of the large camp and galloped his horse to leave the campsite. Before long, he entered a spacious courtyard house. Lang! His figure hadn't arrived, but the robust middle-aged man's voice seemed to be like an explosive clap of thunder as it resounded within the courtyard house. Husband, you have to seek justice for Lang. Lang's entire life has been completely destroyed by that little bastard, Duan Ling Tian. The robust middle-aged man had only just entered the spacious room when the middle-aged woman within the room spoke with a voice that had sorrow and rage mixed within. Father! Xuelang, who lied on the bed, had a fierce and savage expression when he saw the middle-aged man. I want Duan Ling Tian dead. I want him dead. Lang, don't worry. Father assures you that as long as Father still has one last breath remaining, Duan Ling Tian won't live past tomorrow. The middle-aged man, or in other words, Guard Army Commander Xuelu, had an extremely gloomy expression as he spoke. Lang, you rest properly. Father will go take revenge for you right now. Xuelu arrived swiftly and left swiftly, as if he transformed into a gust of wind. And at almost the exact same time, the Duan clan was informed of the matter from the news that was transmitted over from Paladin Academy. Duan Ling Tian, who just returned to the clan and acknowledged his ancestors not long ago, crippled the only son of City Guard Army Commander Xuelu, and crippled the cousin of the fifth prince. The Duan clan higher-ups only felt their scalps go numb when they heard of this news. The audience hall was completely deathly silent. Grand Elder, this matter. Patriarch Duan Ruhua's face was filled with a bitter smile. That nephew of his was really one who stirred up trouble, and compared to his father all those years ago, they were two extremes. Although Duan Rufeng was certainly uninhibited and unrestrained, he wasn't so reckless and unbridled. This Duan Ling Tian would virtually stop at nothing. For the sake of the Duan clan's future, we have to protect him no matter what. Grand Elder Duan Zhan's pair of murky eyes flashed with a bright light as he directly spoke. Exactly, that Xuelu is only a Guard Army commander, and only at the 9th level of the nascent soul stage. As if our Duan clan would be afraid of him. One of the Duan clan elders agreed. Duan Ling Tian is of extraordinary importance to our Duan clan. We must protect him. The other elders reached an agreement as well. That Xuelang is a small problem. However, that person behind him is slightly difficult to deal with. Duan Ruhua frowned and had slight apprehension. No matter how difficult to deal with, he's still a half-step void stage martial artist. Could it be that our Duan clan is afraid of him? Duan Zhan's gaze emitted a fierce light, and his voice was filled with coldness. Fifth Prince's estate. Within a spacious room, the fifth prince's face sank as he gazed at the girl on the bed who had fallen asleep on the bed and had still wet tear stains on her face. Subsequently, he turned around and left the room. Your Highness, that Duanling Tian is really too outrageous, actually crippling Miss Li's Dantian. This is destroying the entire life of Miss Li. The white-browed old man's gaze focused and killing intent vaguely flickered within. Looks like this Duanling Tian really doesn't hold me in any regard. A trace of a breathtaking coldness flashed within the fifth prince's eyes. As the son of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's emperor, the fifth prince had his own arrogance. Normally, even the patriarchs of the three great clans within the imperial city would be respectful when they met him. But now, being treated high-handedly by a youth caused his fury to almost reach the limit. Your Highness, do you require me to deal with him? The white-browed old man said respectfully. It's of no use if you go now. If I'm not wrong, that Xue Lu should have already gone. The Duan clan members would surely have gone as well, based on the natural talent in the martial Dao that Duanling Tian's revealed now. The Duan clan surely wouldn't let anything easily happen to Duanling Tian. A trace of a shine of wisdom flashed within the fifth prince's eyes. The white-browed man came to a suddenly understanding when he heard what the fifth prince said. If the Duan clan members were there, it was indeed impossible for him to kill Duanling Tian. Humph. Let's see if Duanling Tian is able to escape from the calamity today. If he escapes, Senior Bai can personally make a move on him after a few days. I don't believe I can't kill him. The corners of the fifth prince's mouth curled into a sneer. Subsequently, he sighed. Find someone to head to the Fair Sun County's county city to notify my uncle of the matter. Yes, the white-browed old man replied before leaving. The originally quiet imperial city inner city was completely stirred when a formidable array of officers and men walked out in an orderly and aligned manner. The orderly troops were a formidable array of more than 1,000 people. Moreover, before these people, a robust, middle-aged general galloped his horse forward. Viciousness filled his eyes. It's the city guard army. What happened? The city guard army commander Lord Xuelu is actually personally taking charge. I don't know. Let's go follow them and see. Behind the group of city guard army officers, many people followed out of curiosity. In the end, they noticed that these troops stopped before Paladin Academy Gate, completely blocking out the entire Paladin Academy Gate, only leaving one path that was guarded heavily by soldiers. I heard that Commander Xuelu's only son is a student of Paladin Academy. Could it be that something has happened to him? Being able to make Commander Xuelu bring over 1,000 city guard army officers, it would seem that this matter is quite a big deal. Some of the spectators couldn't help but guess. Paladin Academy, atop the large tree at the side of the martial arts practice ground. Duanling Tian slightly frowned as he looked towards the direction of the Paladin Academy gate. He vaguely felt like there seemed to be a clamor over there. Shaking his head, Duanling Tian paid no attention to it and continued to close his eyes and rest his mind. After an unknown amount of time, Duanling Tian. A voice echoed out and caused Duanling Tian to be jolted awake. Only now did he notice Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun standing below the tree with gloomy expressions. What's wrong? Duanling Tian asked uncertainly. Duanling Tian, City Guard Army Commander Xuelu, brought over 1,000 troops to stand guard before Paladin Academy's gate. He is probably waiting for you to leave. Don't go home today. Xiao Sun had an incomparably unsightly expression. Xuelu? Duanling Tian's brows jerked, as during noon when they had lunch, he had heard from Tian Hu about Xuelang's background. Thus he knew that Xuelang was the only son of the City Guard Army's Commander Xuelu. Moreover, Xuelu was even a 9th-level nascent soul martial artist. However, he didn't mind, because if Xuelu were to really piss him off, then he would directly throw a bone corrosion inscription at him and cause the City Guard Army to find a new commander. He really thinks highly of me, and he has brought so many people. The corners of Duanling Tian's mouth curled into a sneer. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun were helpless, as no matter how they persuaded, Duanling Tian persisted on acting willfully and was determined to leave. At dusk, Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun accompanied Duanling Tian to walk out the gate. Duan Ling Tian had only just walked out when he noticed a fierce gaze descend onto his body and lock onto him. "You're Duan Ling Tian?" Far off in the distance, City Guard Army Commander Xue Lu's gaze was like lightning as he stared fixedly at Duan Ling Tian, as if he was extremely afraid that Duan Ling Tian would vanish from his sights. Among the Paladin Academy students, even a grade 1 student would ordinarily be around the age of 20, and an 18-year-old student was extremely rare. Most importantly, this youth wore violet clothes, exactly similar to the Duan Ling Tian of rumor. Thus, Xue Lu easily recognized Duan Ling Tian. "You two go home first." Duan Ling Tian smiled to Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun. However, Xiao Sun and Xiao Yu didn't leave. As friends, how could they leave at this time? Friends go through difficulties together. Duan Ling Tian smiled and didn't persuade the two of them. In any case, as far as he was concerned, everything before him was only just a farce and nothing to be worried about. "Exactly. I'm Duan Ling Tian." Duan Ling Tian walked out in large strides towards Xue Lu with a carefree expression, as if it wasn't a ferocious tiger that was before him, but instead only a docile little cat. Xue Lu's focused his fierce gaze to descend onto Duan Ling Tian. "You actually used an offense inscription to cripple my son's Dantian, destroying his future and his entire life. Before you did this, did you ever think of what consequences it would bring about?" Duan Ling Tian shrugged. His gaze was calm and a smile was constantly there on the corners of his mouth. He said, as he rotated the spatial ring on his right hand around, "Commander Xue, I and your son were complete strangers to each other before today. Why don't you ask why I crippled his Dantian?" "Humph." Xue Lu's face sank as he shouted coldly. "I don't want to know why you crippled my son's Dantian, and I'm not interested to know. I only know that today, you, Duan Ling Tian, will surely die." "Are you that certain?" The speed at which Duan Ling Tian revolved the spatial ring in his hand went faster, and his eyes revealed a trace of disdain. "You'll immediately know why I'm so certain." Xue Lu's eyes emitted killing intent as he abruptly took a step forward with an imposing manner that pierced through the sky. "Xue Lu." Right at this moment, a figure instantly flashed out of Paladin Academy like a ghost and descended before Duan Ling Tian to protect Duan Ling Tian and confront Xue Lu. Seeing that Xue Lu desired to make a move against him, Duan Ling Tian was already prepared to activate the bone corrosion inscription to annihilate Xue Lu. But the appearance of the figure before him made Duan Ling Tian stop the movements of his hand. "Vice Dean." Duan Ling Tian was slightly surprised when he saw the old man, but he still greeted him. "Duan Ling Tian, you are really good at causing trouble." The gray-clothed old man, or in other words, the Vice Dean of Paladin Academy, Zhan Xiong, shook his head with a smile. Duan Ling Tian extended his hand to rub his nose as he laughed embarrassedly. "Zhan Xiong." Xue Lu's movements stopped and slowed down as well, and his face sank as he looked at Zhan Xiong. "I respect Paladin Academy, and thus didn't forcefully charge in to kill this Duan Ling Tian. Now, you still want to stop me outside of Paladin Academy?" Zhan Xiong lightly smiled. "Commander Xue, you're being excessive. I would naturally not take notice of matters outside the Paladin Academy. Then why haven't you moved aside?" Xue Lu's eyes went cold when he interrupted Zhan Xiong with a low voice. Right at this moment, a large, luxurious carriage came from afar and attracted the attention of everyone present. Even Xue Lu couldn't help but frown. The carriage directly charged towards the gate. However, it was stopped by the City Guard Army's officers. K off. The old man that acted as the carriage drive's face sank. Then he pushed out his palm and his vast origin energy condensed into a palm print and whistled out before blasting the City Guard Army officer that blocked his path flying. "Go!" The old man swung the horsewhip in his hand, and the three large horses pulled the carriage and directly charged in. Duan Ling Tian gazed at the old man with a slightly surprised expression. If he wasn't wrong, this old man was precisely the Duan clan's third elder. To be able to make the Duan clan's third elder drive the carriage, then the person within the carriage would surely have an extremely respected identity. Duan Ling Tian was extremely curious. Who could it be? "Xue Lu, what dominance you show." An aged voice that contained rage sounded from within the carriage. Subsequently, Duanxiu stood aside and greeted the old man that came out of the carriage. Grand Elder. Duan Ling Tian's eyes focused when he saw the old man that came out. He was slightly surprised. The Duan clan's Grand Elder was completely different from the Grand Elders of the Su clan and Shao clan. The Duan clan's Grand Elder Duanzhan was the previous patriarch of the Duan clan and had an extraordinary status. His status within the Duan clan surpassed that of the patriarch and was similar to the other supreme elders. Xue Lu's face sank when he saw the old man appear, as although he'd heard of Duan Ling Tian returning to the clan and acknowledging his ancestors, never had he imagined that this old man would personally come for the sake of Duan Ling Tian. Greetings, Senior Duanzhan. Xue Lu took a deep breath, and he looked at Duanzhan as he lightly bowed. Xue Lu, you made such a great display just to deal with an 18-year-old youth of our Duan clan? Duanzhan's calm gaze descended onto Xue Lu. Instantly, Xue Lu felt a wave of pressure, and he took a deep breath as he firmly said, Senior Duanzhan, Xue Lu came here this time to take revenge for my son. I know this Duan Ling Tian is a genius disciple of your Duan clan, but he's crippled the Dantian of my son and destroyed his entire life. I've pledged before my son that as long as I, Xue Lu, have a breath within me, this Duan Ling Tian will not live past tomorrow. So, Senior Duanzhan, once I've taken revenge for my son, then I'll come apologize to you. Xue Lu's tone didn't contain a trace of courtesy. Humph, Xue Yun really has a good son. Good. Duanzhan's eyes focused and a trace of a fierce light flashed within. Then let me see how you make my Duan clan's Duan Ling Tian be unable to live past tomorrow with me. Duanzhan here. Senior Duanzhan, I respect you as an elder, but you better not go too far. Xue Lu's face sank and completely turned hostile. Going too far? Ha 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 ha. Duanzhan started laughing, and within his unrestrained laughter, there seemed to be traces of a terrifying aura mixed within. Duan Ling Tian noticed the difference in this aura at the first possible moment, and his eyes focused as he was shocked inwardly. This Grand Elder is actually in existence at the half-step void stage. Yeah, he is an older generation powerhouse of the Duan clan after all. Half-step void stage. Xue Lu's pupils constricted, and he looked at Duanzhan with an astonished expression. You're actually a martial artist at the half-step void stage. Humph. I and your father, Xue Yun, are people of the same generation. That old goat has broken through already. Could it be that I would be inferior to him? Duanzhan couldn't help but sneer when he saw Xue Lu's expression. Meanwhile, the surrounding Paladin Academy students that were spectating all had gazes that shone. Of course, they didn't understand what a half-step void stage martial artist was, and only thought that Duanzhan was a void stage powerhouse. The Duan clan's Grand Elder is actually a void stage powerhouse. As expected of the Duan clan's previous patriarch, his strength is truly shocking. Duan Ling Tian will probably be fine today, as a void stage powerhouse had appeared. Although this Xue Lu is the city guard army commander, I'm afraid he's probably going to be helpless. Under the sounds of discussion from the crowd of Paladin Academy students, Xue Lu's expression turned more and more unsightly. Never had he expected that the Duan clan would actually send a half-step void stage powerhouse for the sake of Duan Ling Tian. With the presence of this half-step void stage powerhouse, not to mention him, even if he were to lead the 1,000 city guard army behind him, he would still be unable to stop Duanzhan. And if Duanzhan wanted to take Duan Ling Tian to leave with him, it would be extremely easy. Let's go. Thinking up to this point, Xue Lu chose to retreat for the sake of advancing, and his icy cold gaze that had killing intent hidden within flashed past Duan Ling Tian's location. Duan Ling Tian's brows knitted and didn't take Xue Lu's threat to heart. As far as he was concerned, if Xue Lu were to dare come looking for him, it would be outright suicide. However, the appearance of Grand Elder Duanzhan today did, however, allow him to save a bone corrosion inscription. The city guard army had arrived in full fury, but now they all retreated, causing some of the people who came to watch the show to be unable to stop themselves from sighing. I originally thought this Commander Xue Lu would go all out, but I never expected that he would only start out with a bang but end with a whimper. Yes, it's really not worth talking about, and it's just a waste of my time. It isn't really a waste of time. At least we know the cause and effect of the matter. This Duanling Tian is really too courageous, actually daring to cripple the only son of Commander Xuelu. Yeah, this isn't something just anyone would dare do. After the city guard army retreated, the crowd that came to watch the scene dispersed as well. Thank you, Grand Elder, for coming to my rescue. Duanling Tian smiled to Duan Zhan, even though he was still confident in escaping if Duan Jian hadn't come. Since Duan Jian had arrived, it saved him a bone corrosion inscription, so it was necessary for him to express his gratitude. You really know how to stir up trouble, kid. Duan Zhan shook his head before his gaze descended onto the gray-clothed old man at the side. Zhan Xiong, long time no see. It's really been a long time. It's at least been more than 10 years, right? Zhang Xiong nodded, and he obviously knew Duan Zhan. I'll be taking my leave first. Duan Zhan nodded to Zhan Xiong before looking at Duanling Tian. Kid, should I send you home? Grand Elder, it isn't necessary. I'll return home myself. Duanling Tian shook his head. Duan Zhan nodded and didn't say anything before returning into the carriage and directly leaving. Duanling Tian, aren't you worried that Xuelu will turn around and catch you off guard? Zhan Xiong looked at Duanling Tian as he asked with a smile. I hope he does return. Under Zhan Xiong's stupefied expression, Duanling Tian said his farewells to Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun before leaving. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun heaved a sigh of relief. I never expected the Duan clan's Grand Elder would come personally. Could it be that Duanling Tian knew of it beforehand? No wonder he was so composed. Xiao Yu's brows lightly moved as he guessed. To think I was still worried about him. Xiao Sun shook his head with a bitter smile on his face. Meanwhile, the crowd of students at the gate dispersed. Within their hearts, however, shock arose. The Duan clan actually kept Duanling Tian in such high regard, even asking a void stage powerhouse to come forward for Duanling Tian. After leaving Paladin Academy, Duanling Tian walked into a remote alley. Without any warning, Duanling Tian abruptly turned around and looked at the end of the alley, and his gaze focused as he spoke in a calm voice. Come out. Instantly, two old men slowly walked out, and their faces were filled with shock, as it was difficult for them to imagine how Duanling Tian was actually capable of noticing their whereabouts. Sixth Elder, Eighth Elder. Duanling Tian nodded to the two old men. Their two old men were precisely the Duan clan's Sixth Elder and Eighth Elder, and they obviously were sent here by the Duan clan to protect him. Elders, please return. Duanling Tian lightly smiled to the two old men before his body moved, as if transforming into an agile spirit serpent. He concealed himself by entering the corner of the alley in front of them. The two old men followed up but realized that there was no sign of Duanling Tian, and they looked for a long while but were unable to locate Duanling Tian again. For a moment, the shock on their faces grew even greater. This Duanling Tian is really amazing. Not only was he able to notice us, and he's even capable of easily losing us. Even Duan Rufeng all those years ago was far from being so abnormal. Never mind, since he's able to notice us and lose us, he's naturally capable of noticing and losing another. There is absolutely no meaning in us following him, so let's return. Both the old men glanced at each other and could see the bitter smile on each other's face before shaking their heads and directly leaving. They returned to the Duan clan estate to report to Patriarch Duan Ruhua. Two gusts of wind sounded as they swept over towards Duanling Tian, who was on the way home, and they descended beside him. Young master. They were precisely Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang. Where did you two fellows go off to earlier? Could it be that you were not worried that Xuelu would have killed me? Duanling Tian said angrily. Young master, we were with the Marquis earlier. We wanted to make a move but were stopped by the Marquis. Zhang Qian had a bitter smile and an innocent expression on his face. Uncle Nye? Even he knows. Duanling Tian suddenly came to a realization, and a trace of warmth arose within his heart. Looked like even if he didn't have the bone corrosion inscription, or the Vice Dean Zhan Xiong, or the Duan clan's Grand Elder today, he would have still been fine. Although an afternoon had passed, Duanling Tian's mood still hadn't been able to fully calm down, and even the two girls at home noticed that Duanling Tian seemed slightly off. "I'm fine." Duanling Tian lightly smiled when faced with the concern of the two girls. He returned to his room before lying on his soft bed and gazing at the ceiling. His eyes revealed traces of an awe-inspiring light that flowed within. If I'd crippled Tong Li's cultivation the first time I'd met her, Tangwa's incident might not have happened. Duanling Tian sighed in his heart. In the future, he would never be able to see that female student that idolized him so much ever again. Tangwa, although she was only a transient guest within his life, but she'd been deeply remembered within his heart now. This entire night, Duanling Tian thought of many things. In the end, a tremendous change occurred in his mentality. Duanling Tian's current change in mentality would also lead to the fact that anyone who made an enemy of him in the future would never have a good end. The next day, Duanling Tian made a trip to the Divine Might Marquis estate. Divine Might Marquis Nye Yuan couldn't help but shake his head with a smile when he saw Duanling Tian. "What did you come for this time, kid?" Nye Yuan didn't mention anything regarding the matter of the city guard army commander Xue Lu yesterday, or maybe, in his opinion, Xue Lu completely counted for nothing. "Uncle Nye, I come today because I want to ask you for 2 places." Duanling Tian went straight to the point. "Places?" Nye Yuan was dazed and didn't react for a moment. "Places within the Paladin Academy Star Mastermind Department reinforcements that are departing 20 days from now. I have 2 friends that want to go along with me, and I've already promised them," Duanling Tian explained. "So it's this. No problem. I'll tell your big brother Nye when he gets home later. I'll ask him to add on 2 more places. What are the names of those 2 people?" Nye Yuan had a casual expression, as this was only a small matter to him. "Xiao Yu, Xiao Sun." Duanling Tian lightly smiled. "So it's the Xiao clan members, however. This Xiao Sun seems to be the younger brother of that genius alchemist, Xiao He, right?" As Nye Yuan finished speaking, he glanced deeply at Duanling Tian. Who would have thought that the genius in the martial Tao, Duanling Tian, whose name was spread and gave rise to much discussion within the imperial city, was precisely the youth genius alchemist that appeared briefly and once defeated Xiao He within the Alchemist Guild's main guild. Duanling Tian naturally knew the meaning of what Nye Yuan said, and he lightly smiled. "Even if Xiao He were to see me now, he might not even be able to recognize me. Moreover, even if he does recognize me, it still wouldn't affect the relationship between me and Xiao Sun." This was something that Duanling Tian was quite confident about, as he could still remember that when he met Xiao Sun for the first time, when Xiao Sun spoke, he was filled with admiration towards that genius alchemist that defeated Xiao He, and he bore no resentment. "Yes, that disguising method of yours that day was truly unfathomable." Nye Yuan shook his head with a smile as he glanced deeply at Duanling Tian. "Sometimes, I really want to break open your head, kid, and see what other secrets are actually hidden within." Ever since this nephew of his appeared, Duanling Tian had brought him wave after wave of shock, and luckily, his heart was sufficiently strong. Otherwise, he really might have a heart attack because of this nephew of his. Duanling Tian rubbed his nose as he laughed embarrassedly. "Right, didn't you say that day that when you've stepped into the Origin Core stage, you'd be able to refine a grade 8 spirit cleansing pill for your grandpa Nye?" Suddenly, Nye Yuan seemed to have thought of something and his eyes shone. The corners of Duanling Tian's mouth twitched. He was currently only a step away from the 7th level of the core formation stage, let alone the Origin Core stage. Of course, he understood that this Uncle Nye of his surely thought he'd broken through to the Origin Core stage like the other people. Thus, he didn't explain and casually found an excuse. "Uncle Nye, you at least have to give me some time to let my grade 9 pill fire transform into a grade 8 pine fire, right?" Nye Yuan laughed embarrassedly when he heard what Duanling Tian said, and only now did he recall that even if the cultivation had arrived at the Origin Core stage, it wasn't so easy to raise the grade of an alchemist. Within the Crimson Sky Kingdom, people with cultivations at the nascent soul stage, but were only grade 9 alchemists, could be found everywhere. When speaking purely about the alchemist's pill fire, the origin energy within a nascent soul martial artist is sufficient to condense a grade 6 pill fire. However, The advancement of the pill fire is something that depends on the alchemist's natural talent. If someone's natural talent is insufficient, then not to mention the nascent soul stage, even if the person were to break through to the void-prying stage, the person would still only be a grade 9 alchemist, or even to the extent of being unable to become a grade 9 alchemist. It's Uncle Nya who's too impatient. Nya Yuan shook his head and smiled before saying, "Go see your grandfather. He's been frequently talking about you to me during this period of time." Yesterday, when he heard that City Guard Army Commander Xue Lu had brought his soldiers to block you at Paladin Academy's gate, he even started making noise about wanting to kill that Xue Lu. Duan Ling Tian was stunned, as he never imagined that the old man's temper was so explosive. However, a trace of warmth still arose within his heart. Grandpa Nya. When Duan Ling Tian met the old man, he was just watering the plants in the rear courtyard in an extremely happy manner. When the old man saw Duan Ling Tian, his murky eyes shone with a dazzling gleam. "Little Tian, you've come?" Duan Ling Tian supported the old man to sit down before lightly smiling. "Grandpa, your body's gotten better lately, right?" The old man nodded. "The medicinal strength of the grade 9 spirit cleansing pill has already removed the poison from my internal organs, and the remaining poison has been suppressed by the grade 9 spirit cleansing pill within my various parts of my body and within my dantian, so it's not too bad." "That's good. Once I've become a grade 8 alchemist, I'll refine a grade 8 spirit cleansing pill for Grandpa Nya to completely remove the remaining poison." Duan Ling Tian nodded. This result was within his expectations. "I heard you're going to battle with Fawn?" the old man asked. Duan Ling Tian smiled as he said, "Yes, I want to go experience it." Experiencing it is a good thing, as the battlefield is a place to temper a person. As the old man spoke, his gaze seemed to float as if he'd returned once again to those years in the military life, and there seemed to be an aura of slaughter that arose from his body. This aura of slaughter was extremely terrifying, and even surpassed that of the divine might Marquis, Nye Yuan. The following period of time was extremely calm and tranquil. That City Guard Army Commander Xue Lu and that fifth prince seemed to have completely vanished. Of course, Duan Ling Tian wouldn't think they'd show mercy and give up on taking revenge for Xuelang and Tongli. And this was probably only the calm before the storm. Paladin Academy, within the Star Mastermind Department Grade 1 classroom. On the podium, Sima Changfeng slowly said, "The Star Mastermind Department's roster for the students who were following the reinforcement army to battle at the northwest border has been released." "Teacher Sima, why are you speaking of this? Could it be that someone within our class got a place?" Instantly, many students were stunned. Before long, they gazed with tacit understanding at the violet-clothed youth that sat in the distance. "It's probably Duan Ling Tian." "Nonsense. Who else could it be besides Duan Ling Tian?" Some of the students whispered in discussion amongst themselves. In next to no time, all the other students besides Duan Ling Tian looked at Sima Changfeng as they waited for him to announce the roster. Especially Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun, they gazed fixedly at Sima Changfeng, as even though Duan Ling Tian said there would be no problem, they were still slightly perturbed. Duan Ling Tian. Sima Changfeng announced the first name. Xiao Yu, Xiao Sun. Sima Changfeng continued. Actually, when he received the roster, even he was slightly surprised. Duan Ling Tian was recommended by him, and thus it was extremely normal for Duan Ling Tian to be within the roster. But the other two people weren't recommended by him. When Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun heard what Sima Changfeng said, their gazes brightened, and they looked at each other. They could both see the excitement within each other's eyes. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun got places as well? Instantly, the remaining students all glanced at Sima Changfeng and hoped that Sima Changfeng would call out their names. But unfortunately, what Sima Changfeng said next completely dispelled their thoughts. "You three prepare properly and gather at the Academy's martial arts practice ground half a month from now for departure." Finally unable to hold back any longer? At dusk, Duan Ling Tian had just walked out from Paladin Academy when he directly walked into a remote alley. The corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. Whoosh! Duan Ling Tian's figure jerked before his entire body flew out, and instantly, his body vanished at the corner of the other end of the alley. After Duan Ling Tian left, a figure that was like a ghost followed after. Before long, two more figures appeared, and these two figures were precisely Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang, and their expressions couldn't help but go grim. However, no matter how they searched, they were unable to find Duan Ling Tian's tracks again. Why did the young master avoid us as well? Zhao Gang was slightly worried. Maybe the young master noticed that that person's strength wasn't simple and chose to avoid us because of this. Based on the speed that person revealed earlier, he's at least in existence at the 8th or 9th level of the nascent soul stage. Zhang Qian had a serious expression. We can't do anything now, and can only return and wait for news from the young master. Zhao Gang deeply agreed because if Duan Ling Tian wanted to conceal himself, it was completely impossible for them to find Duan Ling Tian. At the same time, outside a nearby empty courtyard house, a violet figure stopped its movement. The surroundings were completely devoid of any human inhabitation, and it belonged to a remote area within the inner city. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a terrifying gust of strong wind swept over, and an aged figure appeared before Duan Ling Tian's eyes. This was an old man with a pair of eyes that flickered with a cold light as he stared at Duan Ling Tian, as if he wanted to tear Duan Ling Tian into pieces. Duan Ling Tian frowned, as he originally thought that it was that city guard army commander Xue Lu or someone the fifth prince had sent, but now it would seem it wasn't so. If he was only carrying out orders, then he shouldn't be looking at him so hatefully. Duan Ling Tian could clearly feel that the hatred the old man felt towards him was a hatred that had reached the depths of his bone. Who are you? Duan Ling Tian looked at the old man as he asked in a low voice. Who am I? The old man couldn't help but sneer when he heard what Duan Ling Tian said. Duan Ling Tian, looks like you've offended too many people, and so you're utterly unaware of who's come to seek revenge from you, however. I really never imagined that the Duan clan's half-step void stage powerhouse would personally attend to the matter for your sake and help you ward off that city guard army commander Xue Lu. However, you're going to die here today. As the old man finished speaking, his eyes revealed an insane killing intent. At the same time, the origin energy on the old man's body flashed erratically, as 1,200 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above him. 9th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Ling Tian's heart jerked, as although the old man wasn't a half-step void stage powerhouse, a 9th level nascent soul martial artist was more than enough to be shocking. This old man was absolutely the strongest person he'd seen below the half-step void stage. You're the Su clan's grand elder, Su Nan? An existence at the 9th level of the nascent soul stage, and hated him to the bones. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian had guessed the identity of the old man. However, didn't the Duan clan help him deal with the problem with the Su clan? He was confident that Patriarch Duan Ruhuo wouldn't lie to him. Looked like this Su Nan was likely acting on his own, or else he wouldn't personally attend to the matter. You're really intelligent, actually being able to guess who I am. Su Nan's eyes revealed a vicious gleam, and his voice was bone-piercingly cold. Duan Ling Tian, only Tong is left in my family, but you've destroyed his life, destroyed his hopes, and have destroyed my hopes for him. As he finished speaking, Su Nan was slightly demented. Humph! Duan Ling Tian's eyes went cold as he mocked. Su Nan, why don't you think about this? If he didn't provoke me and even threaten to cripple my cultivation, why else would I give him a dose of his own medicine? As far as I'm concerned, everything that happened was nobody's fault but his own. If you want to blame someone, then blame yourself for not properly teaching him how he should conduct himself. Arrogant and conceited, and treating others with contempt. Even if I hadn't crippled him, the day would come where he'd be killed at the hands of another. Duan Ling Tian's words exposed the truth with every sentence. Su Nan's expression became more and more unsightly, and the killing intent within his eyes became difficult to restrain. It makes no difference no matter what you say. Today, you will certainly die. That would depend on if you have the capability. Duan Ling Tian sneered as he revolved the spatial ring on his hand, and his icy cold gaze descended onto Su Nan's body. As long as it wasn't in existence at the half-step void stage, he was not afraid. You're faced with imminent death and you can still smile, after I kill you, I'll chop off your head and take it back to the Su clan for that grandson of mine to enjoy the sight of it." As Su Nan finished speaking, his body trembled before moving out. Above him, 1,200 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed out in tow. Sand and dust rushed up into the sky everywhere Su Nan passed, and his entire body pulled out a string of astonishing afterimages as he approached Duan Ling Tian in the blink of an eye. What speed! At the instant that Su Nan's figure moved, Duan Ling Tian's legs that had origin energy accumulated within since long ago trembled abruptly, then he flashed to the side. At the moment that Su Nan reacted and intended to pounce at him, he activated the inscription on his spatial ring. Bone corrosion inscription. A wisp of a gray light flew out from the spatial ring and locked onto Su Nan. The speed of it was even faster than Su Nan's current speed. At the instant that Su Nan pounced towards Duan Ling Tian, he noticed this wisp of gray light flashing towards him, and his heart immediately started trembling. He could clearly perceive that this was an extremely terrifying inscription, and it brought extreme pressure to him. A panicked thought had only just arose within his mind when the wisp of gray light smashed onto his body. Instantly, Su Nan only felt a wave of extreme pain from every bone within his body, causing him to be unable to keep from yelling out a sad and shrill cry with a nearly hoarse voice. At the moment before his consciousness faded, he only felt his body collapsing with a loud crash. As he gazed upon the disgusting corpse before his eyes, even Duan Ling Tian, who wasn't looking at it for the first time, still felt a wave of disgust. Chi. Duan Ling Tian lit ablaze a wisp of pill fire and burned Su Nan's corpse before taking away Su Nan's spatial ring. The Su clan's Grand Elder will have to be changed from today onwards. Duan Ling Tian's cold and indifferent gaze swept past that residue that transformed into ashes in the blink of an eye, before turning and leaving. On the way, Duan Ling Tian established ownership over Su Nan's spatial ring. Not bad. Although it's far from being comparable to the wealth Duan Ru Lei left me, this wealth can be considered to be a hugely profitable business deal. Duan Ling Tian glanced at the spatial ring and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. There was around 30 million silver within. Combined with the other few batches of wealth that he obtained, and including the wealth from Duan Ru Lei, Duan Ling Tian had nearly 300 million in silver on hand already. The currency that circulated within the Crimson Sky Kingdom was the centralized currency that circulated within the Dark Han dynasty. As long as the Dark Han dynasty was still standing, this silver wouldn't lose its value, and it could be exchanged into gold, silver, property, or other items of equal value. The Crimson Sky Kingdom was only a vassal state of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, whereas the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom was only one of the 100-plus imperial kingdoms under the rule of the Dark Han dynasty. I'm not lacking money in the short term, however. It's always the more the merrier when it comes to money. In the future, as my cultivation advances, the grade of the medicinal pills and spirit weapons I'll need to refine will increase, and the required materials will be more and more valuable. As for inscriptions, that's something that totally burns through money, Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. He wished for nothing more than for more people like Su Nan to pounce at home and gift money to him. When he was near his own house, Duan Ling Tian noticed Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang standing before his house's gate and looking forward with eager anticipation. They were obviously waiting for him. Young master. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang moved over to greet him when they noticed Duan Ling Tian had returned. Have you two been slacking off lately? I actually shook you two off again. Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed as he pretended to be serious. Young master, how could we dare slack off, however? Your counter-tracking technique is something we're too inferior to compare to currently, and it's difficult for us to distinguish true or false. Zhang Qian had a helpless and bitter smile on his face. Although Zhao Gang didn't say anything, he still nodded in all seriousness. All right, stop flattering me. Let's go home. Duan Ling Tian took the lead as he headed back to his courtyard house. Young master, what happened to the person that chased you? Zhang Qian asked curiously. Even you two were thrown off by me. Could it be that I couldn't even throw him off? Duan Ling Tian glanced at Zhang Qian in contempt but didn't explain the truth of the matter, as Su Nan was the Su clan's Grand Elder after all. If it wasn't necessary, he didn't want to create unnecessary problems. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang came to a sudden understanding. Duan Ling Tian would be leaving in another half-month, and during this period of time, besides cultivating and inscribing bone corrosion inscriptions, Duan Ling Tian tried his best to make time to accompany the two little girls at home. The passage of time always flowed swiftly. In the blink of an eye, the day the reinforcement troops would go out to battle approached. Within this past half a month, Duan Ling Tian inscribed bone corrosion inscriptions on the extra pile of spatial rings. At the same time, he asked Xiong Quan to gather large quantities of the bone corrosion inscriptions materials and piled them up within his spatial ring in the event of an unexpected need. Besides making adequate preparations of these things, his cultivation smoothly broke through to the 7th level of the core formation stage 10 days ago, and he'd consumed a dragon blood pill to complete the tempering of his fleshly body for the 7th level of the core formation stage. And his entire strength gained an additional strength of 3 ancient mammoths because of this. Even without the use of a spirit weapon, by exploding forth with his entire strength, the current Duan Ling Tian was capable of drawing upon the energy of heaven and earth to develop 19 ancient mammoth silhouettes. And he was only lacking the strength of 1 ancient mammoth from having a strength comparable to the 1st level of the origin core stage. The day after tomorrow is the day the reinforcements go out to battle. Deep into the night, Duan Ling Tian sat cross-legged on his bed. He closed his eyes and cultivated for a while before preparing to sleep. Right at this moment, the sound of his door being knocked resounded. Ku Er? Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force perceived who was outside his door at the first moment. Only when he opened the door did he notice that Ku Er was standing outside his door with her nightgown on. Duan Ling Tian smiled as he asked, Ku Er, it's so late. Why haven't you slept yet? Young master, you're going to the battlefield day after tomorrow. I want to lie with you. Ku Er said, in a light voice, and her delicate body lightly trembled as her cheeks blushed. Duan Ling Tian gulped down a mouthful of saliva, as the charming and bashful Ku Er was no different than a celestial maiden that had fallen into the mortal realm in his eyes. In the end, Duan Ling Tian's lower regions went hot, and he couldn't endure it any longer. He picked Ku Er up into his embrace and threw her on his bed. After kicking his door shut, Duan Ling Tian seemed like a starved wolf as he pounced on Ku Er. A dazzling red rose slowly bloomed atop the bed sheets, seeming amorous and beautiful. At noon the next day, Paladin Academy's cafeteria. Tian Hu. Duan Ling Tian glanced at Tian Hu before looking at Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun, who were beside him. You too tell him. What are you all being so mysterious about? Tian Hu had a stupefied expression, and he glanced at Duan Ling Tian before looking at Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun. Let me do it. Zioa Sun looked Tian Hu as he lightly smiled. Tian Hu, from tomorrow onwards, you'll probably have to eat alone in the cafeteria. What do you mean? Tian Hu frowned. Why are you 3 acting so mysterious today? Could it be that you're all planning to ask for leave and go on a journey? Xiao Sun shook his head. It can be considered a journey, but it isn't asking for leave. We will be joining the reinforcements to head to the northwest border tomorrow and become members of the reinforcements troops to head to the northwest border's battlefield. Tian Hu was struck dumb, and he extended his hand to touch Xiao Sun's forehead. Xiao Sun, you don't have a fever, so why are you raving wildly? Tian Hu naturally didn't believe what Xiao Sun said, as amongst the Paladin Academy students, the minimum requirement to enter the battlefield even within the Star General Department would be Grade 2 students, whereas for the Star Mastermind Department, the requirements were much harsher, and generally only a few Grade 5 or Grade 6 students were able to participate. Seeing that Tian Hu still didn't believe them, Xiao Yu spoke out as well. Tian Hu, Xiao Sun isn't talking nonsense. We're really leaving tomorrow. Tian Hu was still partially skeptical when he heard what Xiao Yu said. Then he looked at Duan Ling Tian in an attempt to seek the final confirmation. Duan Ling Tian nodded. F***K. Tian Hu glared. How did you all get spots? You guys aren't good brothers, sneaking off by yourselves and leaving me all alone. Xiao Sun patted Tian Hu's shoulders as he said, with a smile, Tian Hu, didn't you once say it yourself? As a Star General Department student, you'll have an opportunity to enter the battlefield sooner or later. As for us, we'll probably only have this one chance. Tian, whose face instantly fell when he heard what Xiao Sun said, and his face was filled with helplessness and a bitter laugh. In the afternoon, Duanling Tian sat cross-legged in cultivation atop a large tree at the side of the martial arts practice grounds. At an unknown time, a wave of clamor echoed into his ears. Duanling Tian. A sweet-sounding voice entered into Duanling Tian's ears and gave him the feeling that they'd met before. Duanling Tian returned to his senses before looking off into the distance, and only then did he notice a beautiful figure that seemed like a celestial maiden standing there. The woman had a drop-dead gorgeous appearance. Princess Bai Yao? Duanling Tian was stunned, as he'd never imagined that Princess Bai Yao would appear here. Meanwhile, Duanling Tian noticed that the entire group of Star Mastermind Department students, including Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun, were all looking at where Duanling Tian currently was, and most of them had faces filled with jealousy and envy. Moreover, Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun had dubious expressions. Duanling Tian smiled bitterly as he directly jumped off the large tree. In next to no time, Duanling Tian noticed that Princess Bai Yao seemed to say something to the old woman behind her. Then the old woman nodded and Princess Bai Yao walked over alone towards him. Princess. Duanling Tian nodded with a smile to Princess Bai Yao. This could be considered a greeting to her. Princess Bai Yao's beautiful face blushed and had a delicate and attractive appearance. Duanling Tian, I heard that you're leaving the Imperial City with the reinforcement troops tomorrow and heading to the northwest border. Yes. Duanling Tian nodded. Princess, why are you at Paladin Academy? Princess Bai Yao lightly smiled. I came to look for my seventh brother, then I thought of coming to see you on the way. As she finished speaking, Princess Bai Yao's face was even redder. Seventh brother? Duanling Tian was surprised. The seventh prince is at the Paladin Academy as well? It's really a rare occasion that Princess still remembers me, and it's truly an overwhelming favor. Duanling Tian's brows slightly knitted, and he lightly smiled. Princess Bai Yao shook her head and said, Duanling Tian, there's only me and you here, so you don't have to be so restrained. Yes. Although Duanling Tian replied to her, there was still no change in him, causing Princess Bai Yao to gradually become slightly helpless as she glanced at Duanling Tian with a hidden bitterness. After chatting for a while more, only then did Princess Bai Yao leave. Duanling Tian, you're really something. The princess actually personally came to look for you. Xiao Sun walked over with a face full of jealousy and envy. She really deserves to be the #1 beauty within the Imperial City, and she has a well-deserved reputation. Xiao Yu couldn't help but sigh as well, and he glanced deeply at Duanling Tian at the same time. This fellow, why does he incur so much fondness of beauties? First it was Li Fei, then it was his sister, and now Princess Bai Yao arrived. The three women were undoubtedly beauties with drop-dead gorgeous appearance, but they had all lost their hearts to Duanling Tian. I hope that with the passage of time, Lan can forget him. Xiao Yu sighed in his heart, as although he didn't mind Duanling Tian being his brother-in-law, whenever he thought about how Duanling Tian already had women by his side, he wasn't willing to allow his sister to jump into the flames and share a husband with other women. Meanwhile, the surroundings burst into an uproar. Did you see that? Even Princess Bai Yao came to look for Duanling Tian. Yeah, I never imagined that Duanling Tian's charm was so huge. In terms of age, Duanling Tian is similar to Princess Bai Yao, and they seem like a perfect match. They're far more than a perfect match. They are virtually a match made in heaven. The Imperial City's #1 beauty, and the Crimson Sky Kingdom's #1 genius in the younger generation, TSK. Could it be that the heavens destined them to have a fate of marriage? Similar discussions spread out from the side of the martial arts practice grounds to the entire martial arts practice grounds. Moreover, the news strayed from the truth the further it spread. Some people even said that His Majesty the Emperor intended to bestow marriage upon Duanling Tian and Princess Bai Yao. At another side of the martial arts practice grounds, a few 25-year-old higher-grade students were encircled around a handsome and extraordinary blue-clothed young man that had a graceful bearing. They were listening to him recount something. A strong confidence was emitted from between the brows of the blue-clothed young man, and there was a resplendent and bright smile on his face as he gave a lively description. The surrounding students' gazes revealed a trace of respect when they gazed at him. Brother Gu Xian. Suddenly, an anxious voice sounded and interrupted the blue-clothed young man. What are you so agitated about? The blue-clothed young man frowned as he looked at the young man that ran to stand before him and was slightly displeased. Brother Gu Xian, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. However, this matter is related to Princess Bai Yao. The young man that arrived in haste hadn't even finished speaking when he was interrupted by the blue-clothed youth. What did you say? Bai Yao? Bai Yao's come? The blue-clothed youth's eyes revealed a trace of fanaticism, and his tone became hurried as well. The disposition with graceful bearing earlier was instantly shattered by himself. Yes, she seemed to have come to look for the seventh prince. The young man hurriedly nodded. Is she still at the seventh prince's place? The blue-clothed young man pressed on and seemed that he planned to directly charge over to meet Princess Bai Yao. No, Princess Bai Yao has already left. The young man shook his head. Then what are you so agitated about? The blue-clothed young man frowned, and his eyes flashed with a trace of disappointment. Brother Gu Xian, besides seeing the seventh prince, Princess Bai Yao saw another person. The young man carefully glanced at the blue-clothed young man as he spoke slightly hesitantly. The blue-clothed youth seemed like an explosive that had been lit when he heard what the young man said, and his face went grim. Who else did Bai Yao see? Duan Ling Tian, the young man directly said. Duan Ling Tian? The blue-clothed youth frowned and was slightly depressed. How could Bai Yao know that grade 1 student? That person seems to have only arrived at the Imperial City a few months ago, right? Right at this moment. You didn't see it earlier. Not only did Princess Bai Yao take the initiative to go see Duan Ling Tian, she even asked the old woman at her side to stay on the spot while she went to talk intimately with Duan Ling Tian by herself. It can't be. Could it be there's something between them? I don't know either. However, she chatted quite happily with Duan Ling Tian. Moreover, when Princess Bai Yao left, I saw that her face was rosy red from blushing. Looks like Princess Bai Yao has feelings for Duan Ling Tian. The voice of two students that walked shoulder to shoulder as they passed by entered the blue-clothed young man's ears and caused his face to sink. The blue-clothed young man's frosty gaze looked towards the two students that passed by as he coldly shouted, "If you two dare speak nonsense anymore, I'll cripple your tongues." The two students' faces went grim. They were about to retort, but when they caught sight of the blue-clothed young man, they were like mice that had seen a cat, and they fled in panic. Brother Gu Xian, what's wrong? Didn't you say that Lord Xiang and His Majesty had privately come to an agreement and that in more years, he would bestow a marriage and betroth Princess Bai Yao to you? One of the people at the side had a bewildered expression. Humph! Gu Xian's face sank, and a thread of cold light flashed within his eyes. Duan Ling Tian. The other people realized Gu Xian's fury and shut their mouths. However, they quickly noticed that every part of the martial arts practice grounds was currently spreading the rumors regarding the dubious relationship between Duan Ling Tian and Princess Bai Yao. Atop the large tree at a side of the martial arts practice grounds, Duan Ling Tian yawned and looked at the sky's color. It was currently sunset, the time to leave the academy. Xiao Yu, Xiao Sun. Duan Ling Tian greeted Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun before walking towards the outside of Paladin Academy with them. We're leaving tomorrow. Are you two ready? Duan Ling Tian asked with a smile. Actually, there's nothing to get ready, just some changes of clothes. Xiao Sun shook his head with a smile. When he thought of how he would be following the reinforcement troops to depart tomorrow and head towards the northwest borders battlefield, he couldn't help but get slightly excited within his heart. Xiao Yu evidently was almost the same. Just when the gate was right before their eyes. Duan Ling Tian. Right at this moment, a cold and indifferent voice sounded from behind Duan Ling Tian's group of three. Duan Ling Tian's group of three stopped their footsteps before turning around. Duan Ling Tian looked off into the distance. There was currently a blue-clothed youth with a handsome appearance and a graceful bearing coming towards them, and he was bringing along a few young men. Gu Xian. Xiao Sun frowned when he saw the blue-clothed young man. Xiao Sun, you know him? Xiao Yu noticed the hostile expression that was revealed between the brows of the blue-clothed young man, and this hostility was precisely directed towards Duanling Tian. This Gu Xian is the only son of Prime Minister Gu, and he is a grade 6 student within the Paladin Academy's Star Mastermind department. His cultivation is at the 3rd level of the Origin Core stage. Most importantly, he's inherited the wisdom of Prime Minister Gu and has his own understanding on the Tao of the Mastermind, with a bearing that showed he had a great chance of developing his own school of thought. Xiao Sun slowly said, Prime Minister Gu? Xiao Yu was slightly surprised. That figure that's equally famous to the Divine Might Marquis, Grand General Nye Yuan?
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.